Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise. A quick word about this. I have to offer an apology to somebody because some of you may remember that I started last month's episode with this clapperboard which I said I received as a gift from one of my nieces for Christmas. I neglected to mention that niece's boyfriend also had a lot to do with this gift, and he was most upset that he didn't get a mention. So niece's boyfriend, please accept this apology. You are amazing. This clapperboard is fantastic. I know it was your idea. I know you bought it. I know you wrapped it. Thank you very much indeed. I hope we can now put that behind us. Welcome to episode 12. I will say my hellos and welcomes in a few minutes. I think, as always, we should start by smelling a perfume. And the one that I've been dying to try, it arrived just the other day, is this one here from Jusbox, the Italian brand that was set up, I want to say, just over a year ago. Have they been around for 2 years? I'm not sure. This is one that I think officially was released at the very end of last year, but unless I'm mistaken, it's only just started to arrive in the UK, which basically means arrive at Selfridges, because as far as I know, it is still a Selfridges exclusive, the brand. It is called Feather Supreme, and those of you who know this brand will be aware that it takes its inspiration from the world of music. The bottles are 78 mils, so you know, vinyl collectors out there will know what that is a reference to. And so I'm thinking Feather Supreme, the Supremes. Is it going to be referencing the Motown era? We shall find out. Always really great packaging from this brand. I'm not a packaging geek. In fact, I'm not even a packaging competent. I don't know how to get into this. Oh yeah, okay, it's magnetized, right, that clever invention. Bottles are very, very cool. The lids look like a record. I'm sure we featured one of these bottles on Love at First Scent anyway. And each one is a slightly different colour. As you can see, this is a rather fetching shade of purple. The fragrance is called Feather Supreme. It comes with a little leaflet inside that hopefully will tell us a little bit more about the perfume. I deliberately haven't read it, but I think you can already tell that we're kind of on the right lines if we're thinking of the Supremes. I think we should spray and sniff. So let me get a blotter. Just label it because I will forget otherwise. Okay, here we go. Feather Supreme from Jusbox. Right. Oh gosh. Suddenly there's a retro vibe in the air. I don't know what this says about me and my upbringing, but at the moment I'm thinking really, really expensive shampoo, but in a good way. Okay, so what do I mean when I say really expensive shampoo? I suppose fruit notes and gentle floral notes that are convincing, that are well done. So there's nothing sickly about this so far at the opening. There's nothing that makes you think, you know, low-cost bathroom product aisle in your supermarket. But already that initial burst of sweet fruitiness is gone, and something a lot more bitter has come into play. Maybe something jasmine-like, but in that kind of tannin heavy, almost a little bit harsh, but again in a good way, harsh feel that you get from the jasmine orchid feel in Tom Ford's Black Orchid. Definitely something retro at play here. I'm thinking of 80s perfumes, which isn't quite right, I suppose, for a Motown feel, but I'm thinking of scents like Lulu and Eden from Cacharel that really mix the kind of the musks with those fruity notes and dryness. in an intriguing fashion. I'm just going to spare a glance here for my tablet, if you don't mind, because I just want to make sure that everything's okay, and it's on my tablet. I think there's the only way that I can actually see comments from you, because the screen in front of me is too small to show any comments. Right, here we go, and I hope it's not suddenly going to play audio. Right, let me mute that. Okay, so please feel free to leave questions and comments. Those of you who watch regularly and those of you who read my blog will know that I'm not especially interested in putting perfumes into gender slots, but if we did have to characterize this one, it's definitely, I think what it's trying to be is super feminine. I seem to be thinking that I'm in sort of deja vu mode here, because was it in one of the recent episodes that I mentioned like a sort of Jennifer Aniston shampoo ad where, you know, hair is swaying fantastically and wind is blowing and all the hair sort of falls perfectly and light is gleaming off it. It's got all of those sorts of those sorts of impressions here, this perfume. So I guess what that means is, you know, somebody who's super confident walking down the street, camera flashes are flashing all over the place. It is glamorous and it's very fine. There's something very, very, very finely textured about it, not powdery, just maybe I'm just thinking of the feathers in the name, you know, maybe that suggestion has been put in my head. Joe says, good to see you live again. Thank you very much. Good to have you here. Right, let's see what this, I'm intrigued by this one, which is always a good thing. Okay, so now that I've taken the card out, you can see from the typeface that they are very definitely referencing the feather boa era. Let's see what it says about. Oh gosh, there's a lot of text here. Okay. Soft as a feather, floating in the blue sky, she brings supreme notes of elegance and freedom to my heart. And then it just says 1960s. At the beginning of the 1960s, many Americans believed they were standing at the dawn of a golden age. In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson followed the footprints of his predecessor, J.F. Kennedy, and pushed a civil rights act that prohibited discrimination in public places, persecuted any discrimination against women and minorities, and promised equal opportunities in the workplace to all. Look where we are now. But these laws did not solve the problems facing African Americans or women. They did not eliminate racism, sexism, or poverty. There was a need for strong feminine voices in a male-dominated society and industry, voices that could address the largely unspoken misogyny of the time. Gospel provided a natural answer to the call, and black church, the nurturing environment for one of the most influential and important voices in pop, Aretha Franklin. Okay, so inspired by Aretha Franklin, I guess. She fused the gospel music with the sensuality of R&B, the innovation of jazz, and the precision of pop. By 1968, she reigned throughout America and Europe as the Queen of Soul, and she was viewed as a potent symbol of female equity and black advancement. Her perseverance, strength, and success has inspired generations of women and the black community. Okay, so nothing there about the perfume. I know that it's by Dominique Ropion, who of course is now, I suppose, most famous for his work with Frederic Malle, because he made Carnal Flower and Portrait of a Lady, but he has a career that reaches several decades into the past. He had a hand in making Dune for Dior. He made Amarige. Lots and lots. If you Google him, you will find that he has signed many a perfume. I would say that if this is meant to represent Aretha Franklin, first of all, good job. That there is something supremely hard. There is something eminently curvaceous about it and vivacious, but it's not funky. It at the moment anyway, the way it's going so far, it feels quite clean. I guess that goes back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, freshly washed and blow-dried hair. Everything here seems to be about immaculate grooming. So it's not earthy. it's not sort of saucy or spicy in any way, but you can't have everything, and I guess it's certainly glamorous, and it feels like the sort of thing that somebody might want to wear if they're just about to go on stage and project confidence. I did just do a screen grab, doing a screen grab without reading it, but I did my best not to read it, because I do try to take this whole smelling the perfumes for the first time thing seriously, and just to get some more information about it. And what I've got, what does it say? Dominique Ropion created a super feminine composition. The fragrance represents the elegant and sensual dance of a feather in the air. Who's thinking of the opening of Forrest Gump right now? It opens with mandarin, bergamot and apple, okay, that later reveals the deep floral heart of rose, ylang ylang, jasmine and tuberose. Yeah, but a very gentle white floral heart. Patchouli, labdanum and musk give a sophisticated yet powerful touch to the scent. So I suppose we'd say it's a clean, confident floral. I think I would suspect that Aretha Franklin probably wore something, if she wore anything, she probably wore something a lot earthier at the height of her success. But I'll be very curious to see how this develops. So, one perfume down. Thank you very much for tuning in wherever you are. Already second episode of the year. I can't quite believe we're in the second week of February. In a nutshell, what you are watching here is the kind of antithesis to the reviews that I write on my blog, Persolaise.com, which are, or they're meant to be carefully thought out, considered. I go over them again and again. This is meant to be the complete opposite of that. The idea is to smell perfumes that I've never smelt before, smelling them for the first time live here on Facebook, and then giving you my initial impressions. If you have tuned in live, thank you very much for taking the time to do so. Please have hearts and thumbs up flying across the screen, because they are much appreciated. Feel free to ask me any questions or leave any comments. I do try to read through all the comments and answer them after the broadcast. As ever, when this broadcast is over, the video will be posted onto Facebook and will stay on the Persolaise Perfumes page. So feel free to leave a question after the broadcast. And also, in a few days from now, probably in 2 or 3 days, the video will be uploaded to my YouTube page. So if you are watching on YouTube, thank you very much indeed. Please subscribe to my channel. Please feel free to ask a question. Please leave a comment. And Joe has said, I see a lot of roses on my screen. Am I sensing a theme for today's episode? Do you know what? This wasn't actually planned, believe it or not. The roses are here because they're in another room in the house, and Madame Persolaise said, you need to have the roses in your video. And I think she's right, because they are stunning. And I must have had roses on my mind. This actually I thought would be my concession to Valentine's Day. Carol says, I love your choice of shirt too. Thank you very much indeed. This is my concession to Valentine's Day, which of course is on Wednesday. Yeah, I didn't have to think about that at all. I knew exactly when Valentine's Day is. And I've made a concession to Valentine's Day because, in response to what a lot of you have said, in today's episode I would actually like to feature a classic scent, one of my favourites. You know how in the past I've always said to you, what would you like me to do? And I think pretty much all of you have said that you like, obviously, the idea of smelling brand new things, but you would also appreciate it if in each episode I did a classic. And I have chosen a classic for today with Valentine's Day in mind. You won't see it here because I have hidden it, and you'll have to stay tuned to find out what it is. Although if you're watching it after the live broadcast, you can just fast forward. I won't hold it against you. Right, what should I ask you about today? I think maybe I'll just be boring and ask you about the weather, although that's not very boring, because one of my Instagram followers very, very kindly wrote to say that he's very sorry, but he won't be able to join us live today because it's an unusually sunny day in his part of the world, and he didn't want to miss out on being in the outdoors, and he said he would catch up with the video after the broadcast. And I wrote to him and I said that I would absolutely not want anybody to sacrifice a beautiful day for my sake, but it was very nice of him to make that gesture. I think we should move on to another one, and this is also one that genuinely I haven't smelt before. Very, very excited to try this. This obviously is not the proper bottle. This is the sample that I was sent, and it's from the Italian brand. No, are they Italian or are they Swiss? No, I think it sounds Italian, but it's a Swiss brand. So yes, somebody correct me. Somebody look it up. I'm pretty sure it's Swiss. Sammarco. I'm excited to try this one because last year, one of their perfumes called Nias, I actually put on my list of the best perfumes of 2017. And so I'm curious to see what the perfumer and brand founder Giovanni Sammarco has given us now. I don't really know how we're meant to pronounce this perfume's name. You probably can't see it there, but it's just written Y-A-E-L, Yael or Yael. I don't know whether it's a flanker to Harvard. Please forgive the lame joke. But I know very little about this one. Carol says, it's grey out here, freezing, rain, vile. Oh dear. Down here, actually, in the south of England, at the start of the day, it looked as though it was going to be another miserable day like yesterday. But no, as I look this way, to the window on my left, I can just see very few clouds in an otherwise blue sky. But it is very cold. It is freezing cold. Mind you, I'd rather it were cold and blue skies rather than, sort of slightly warmer and raining. Let us smell Yael from Sammarco. As always, please do check out the comment that I leave at the bottom of this video on Facebook, because about 4 or so hours after this broadcast, I do a sort of blotter update to tell you how the scent has developed on the blotters, because I can't stress enough that these are just initial impressions, and of course perfumes develop. They smell quite different on skin. To some extent they smell different on different people, not entirely, to some extent, and so we can't take these initial impressions as being the sort of be all and end all of the assessment of these scents. Anyway, Yael or Yael from Sammarco. What are we getting? Something. What is that? I don't know what it is yet, but I like it. What is that? It's like fruit made of wood, like wooden pears or something. And maybe some sort of pepper. I'm stumped for words, but this is very Moorish. Very, very, very well balanced, whatever it is. Very intriguingly blended. You can't really pick out specific ingredients. But it just feels like... Have you noticed how it actually made me quieten down a little bit? It's got a very soothing, calming quality to it, despite the presence of the pepper. Do you know what I'm picturing? Stupid question. You have no idea what I'm picturing. I'm about to tell you what I'm picturing. I'm picturing a tiny room, almost like maybe some sort of an annex, some kind of attic room. And it's very, very dark, and it's just lit by a single candle, and there is a figure. Maybe like in some kind of Renaissance painting, a figure that's sort of hunched over a small wooden desk, and this figure is covered in thick robes to keep warm, and they're sort of writing on a sheet of parchment, and the texture of the parchment is here, and that sense of closeness, it's like the sort of pinprick of light that is drawing you in, and you focus on it to the extent that you forget that everything you forget everything else going on around you. Very, very meditative, very, very contemplative, but I couldn't tell you what else is in it, unless I'm being completely nose blind today. There's definitely a kind of floral inflection, maybe some kind of rose, maybe a sort of berry note. Quite striking, quite striking. David says, hello from Paris. Bonjour, how are you? Thank you so much for tuning in. How are things in Paris? This is fascinating. This needs a proper test drive. Right. All I get from the brand is a little card with a personal note that says, "Hope you will enjoy my Yael." Yael is a warm and passionate fragrance. Okay, I get the warm, but it's a quiet passion. It's a sort of restrained passion, teasing and sparkling at the same time. Teasing is right, most definitely. Oh, quite beautiful so far. Seriously, honestly, I'm really, really impressed. The elegance of Oris. Yeah, okay. Which is probably where I was going with the parchment, because Oris quite often makes me think of a sort of paper-like quality. But as I said, this isn't a solo note scent so far. Carol says, this is what I love about perfume. It takes the mind places via the nose. Absolutely, yes. Could not agree with you more. That is what I love about it as well. And I also love the fact that it leads to all of these exchanges, because, you know, you could be smelling this and thinking something completely different. Peggy says, sounds like a scene from that Umberto Eco book. Yes, The Name of the Rose. Absolutely. Monks. Did I say monk, or did you just think monk? Completely right. Absolutely. It's this sort of... And I think it also has the intelligence of that novel. Now I want to reread The Name of the Rose. Do you know what? I haven't read that book for 20 or so years. I absolutely loved it. Shame about the film. Anyway, well, where were we? So, the elegance of Oris. I just want to keep smelling this. Today's episode is over as Persolaise just goes off and smells Yael for the rest of the hour. The elegance of Oris, the creaminess of sandalwood, the spiciness of pink pepper, yeah, combined with a fruity opening and a touch of animal mystery. Giovanni, you need to change your spelling of mystery. Peggy says it's the robe thing. Yeah, completely. But I wasn't even necessarily thinking that it has to be a man. Just a robed figure. And a touch of animal mystery give the feeling of a sensual hug and a tender caress. The official notes are rose, cassis, raspberry, pink pepper, ginger, orris, vanilla, sandalwood, and amber. And an intriguing note here, the creation of Yael is part of the master's thesis project of Beatrice Bacon. You can't just put one sentence in there like that and not tell us any more. Now I want to know who this person is and how come their master's thesis has ended up in a perfume. Right, I'm going to write to him. I shall write to him tomorrow and say, tell us more. Isn't it wonderful that, you know, I've been smelling perfumes, literally, I'm not going to get into this story now, but I have been smelling perfumes in a very sort of geeky, active way since I was a little kid. I kid you not. They have fascinated me for longer than I care to remember. And isn't it wonderful that still something can come along that makes you go, A, do you know what? I don't think I've ever smelled anything exactly like this. And B, it's just beautiful. The rest of the world can just stop for a second. I just want to go on this olfactory exploration with this scent. So yes, I hope it doesn't go horribly wrong as it develops, but definitely love at first scent. Thank you, Giovanni Sammarco, and another hit. It's just that gentleness, that contemplative note. Oh, we need to move on. How are we doing for time? This is where I need to... I've already been talking to you for 25 minutes. How is this even possible? Beautiful. Order your sample now. Go on the website. Order a sample. Just stunning. Right. The third one that I would like to smell today, please keep questions, comments. You're being very good today. You're being very quiet. Is it because you're just all having a lazy Sunday, or you're just sort of dazed by my rabbiting on inconsequentially? I would like to try a perfume that is new to me, but is not new to the world, because I believe it was released three and a bit years ago. I know very, very little about this brand, Masque Milano. But they very kindly sent me a few of their vials in the post, and number one, I was very impressed and very pleased that they put the perfumers' names on their packaging, and I was even more impressed by who some of the perfumers are. I thought, gosh, I didn't even know these people had done work for this brand, because we have got the likes of Delphine Thierry and Cécile Zavrakian, Bruno Jovanovic. Roxana says, after that, the two Gallivant, please. Okay, I don't know if we'll be able to do both of them, but I will certainly mention them to you. Do you know the brand, Roxana? Are you aware of them? I am intrigued by the one by Julien Raquinet, who made Bois d'Assès for Naomi Gutze, one of my favourite perfumes of recent years. And I'm also intrigued by the fact that it proclaims itself to be a tea scent, and I like the idea of tea scents. Joe says, La Tessa is my favourite. It's done by Luca Maffei. I think they sent me that too. Yes, they have. So I shall try it as soon as I can. But I really want to try the Russian tea one. I think Julien is a very talented perfumer, and I'm pleased that he's starting to become better known. Roxana says, I've heard about it but never tried it. Okay, now I'm lost. Roxana, by that you mean... Okay, the Gallivants. If we don't get a chance to talk about the Gallivants, let me just say now, you ought to check them out, because they're well worth checking out as a brand. A very, very well curated brand, very well managed brand. Joe says, Russian tea is also a very impressive scent. And actually, on that note, Roxana and everybody else, there is a lot that I want to talk about today. I'm tempted to actually leave this setup intact here and do a follow-up video quite quickly, but then I worry about, overkill. I think sort of one a month is probably a good idea. So I may go through some of them very quickly, because there's lots on here on this table that is great. If I don't get a chance to talk about this new parfum version of Cartier's Declaration, please check it out. It is so beautiful. If you like the original Declaration, I think you will love this. But anyway, Russian tea from Masque Milano, composed by Julien Raquinet. Let us see what his take on Russian tea is. Here we go. Some kind of soapy effect coming up, actually. Oh no, forget that. Soapiness is gone. It's certainly got the burnt quality of tea. Smouldering tea leaves. But there is actually a kind... Is it soapiness or is it fruitiness? I wonder if that's his way of cutting the Nafia. I don't know. I need to put my teeth in back in today. What I was trying to say in the Queen's English is that I've just had a notification to say that Nafia is watching. I don't understand why Facebook sometimes tells me who's just tuned in and sometimes it doesn't. I guess it must be to do with your settings. Like, for instance, if some of you want to watch privately, which is fine, by the way, it doesn't tell me that, whereas sometimes it does. Nafia says, what are you smelling? What we are smelling, Nafia, thank you for tuning in, hope you're okay, is Russian tea from Masque Milano. And Carol says, nothing wrong with prolonging pleasure. Keep some for the next Love at First Scent. Okay, hi Nafia. I can do a real wave, you have to do an emoji wave. And I've also just had a thing come up on my screen from an Instagram comment saying, can you do Gallivant? Okay, I think we need to mention Gallivant. Anyway, tea. Have any of you tried a recent Annick Goutal perfume called L'Île aux Thés, I think it was, the tea island? That one has, without any question, one of the most convincing tea openings I have ever smelt in a perfume, to the extent that you think you can smell the tea bag. And of course now we know tea bags are evil because they have plastic in them, and we should all go back to using loose leaf tea, which is not a bad thing at all. But anyway, that's an aside. That was one of our conversations at breakfast today, how we're not going to have tea bags anymore. Another convincing tea scent for me is L'Artisan Parfumeur's Tea for Two, although that becomes quite sweet. It becomes quite vanillic and gourmand. Where I'm going with this is that I'm not sure this is as convincing in a tea sense. Nafia says, good to know, I've been on the hunt for a nice authentic black tea note. Okay. You may want to smell this one. I don't know how authentic it is as a tea note, but that aside, it's still really compelling. What's stopping it from being a tea note? Maybe it's just a bit too burnt or a bit too bitter or sour. There's a kind of woodiness to it. I'll tell you what, it doesn't smell of any tea that I've drunk. Joe says, have you tried, I can't see that, sorry, I'm going blind. Have you tried Chi? Is that Chi? The extrait version by Ormond Jane. It is a very photorealistic green tea scent. The answer to that is yes, but I can't remember it because it was a long time ago. And Peggy says, I have heard that Russians sometimes drink their tea with black cherry compote to sweeten it. Could that be the sweet fruity note? This is why I love doing these things with you guys, because you actually learn so much more from you than you do from me. Angeline says, smoky sounds like Lapsang Souchong. Yeah, but it's not. I love Lapsang, and I know Lapsang quite well. It doesn't have the leatheriness of Lapsang, and the smokiness isn't that pronounced. What it actually has is almost like a kind of floral note, maybe even a grassy note. I think that's what's throwing me. There's something green about it. It may well be the sort of thing that might be different on skin. But having said all of that, I like it. I do really like it. It's sharp. It's very, very clear and sharp, and it almost has the sort of texture of a very, very fine needle, and it seems to reflect light in a sort of perfect glint, the way a needle might as well. Intriguing. I don't know. I'm not going to know which one to wear tonight. I've got a whole day in London tomorrow helping a friend choose a perfume for a very, very special occasion. So what do you wear when you're going out perfume hunting for somebody else's very special occasion? Maybe I'll wear this. I've got a little bit of information here. It starts with a quote from Pushkin. Who else? Day faded, on the table, glowing, the samovar of evening boiled. Okay, is that meant to be like that, or is that just dodgy translation? Let me just scroll through to make sure no comments have come. No, I don't think so. Okay, now we've got a little bit of prose. Out there, the snow-covered Nevsky Prospect and a sumptuous Art Nouveau building. Inside, a large bookstore, and on the first floor, an elegant cafe. As water is poured in the cup, the infusion unleashes its most characteristic notes. Black tea, heavy and intense. Nafia says, is there something almost minty in there? Maybe. Good point. I'd go with the almost minty rather than minty. It doesn't have that fully bracing feel of, sort of toothpaste mint. Nafia says, just sprayed my sample. Oh, cool. Live comparing. This is a first. Oh my God. Right. So what are you making of it, Nafia? Smoky. Why is your comment being chopped off? Or is that just you? Almost rubberized opening. Okay. Maybe. I mean, yeah, possibly. This is good. Why don't you all have a sample of Russian tea so that we could all be smelling it together? Where was I? A floral note, sharp and biting. Okay, thank goodness I'm not going mad. There was a floral note. And that unmistakably dry and smoky aftertaste given by the caravanserai campfires, meant to keep the precious tea cargo dry in the never-ending journey through Siberia. The fresh mint leaves. Okay. Hats off to Nafia. The fresh mint leaves give a pleasant fresh touch to the hot water. A teaspoon of raspberry preserve sweetens, without altering it, the bitter aftertaste of leather and birch. So well done. I can't remember who said cherry. You were on the right note with the fruits. It's raspberry, meant to be raspberry, not cherry. We sip it slowly, gazing out of the wide window. Towards the beautiful cathedral of Our Lady of Kazan and beyond. I do not have a beautiful cathedral opposite me, I must point out. The Russian tea ritual today carried us to an unexpected journey in remote lands full of mystery and fascination. Right, Nafia's been commenting away. Too many almosts. Sorry, hard to make out actual notes. But isn't that great about the perfume? I love this, and I'm sure I've written about this, and I've talked about this here in these broadcasts. When a perfume teeters on the edge of various things, that's what makes it fascinating, because that's what draws you in. You want to try and work out what's going on there. You kind of think, yeah, it's almost this, but not quite, because then it goes off there, and then it almost becomes that, but then it kind of surprises you. I think if I did have to choose anything that I find just a little bit off-putting, maybe a little bit disappointing, is this kind of girly floral note. Do you get that at all, Nafi, or am I going mad with that? Okay, I've just looked at the notes list, and it mentions magnolia. And maybe that's what it is, that kind of heading in the direction of being a little bit too sickly floral, which I kind of don't want here. What else does it mention? It mentions mint, black pepper, raspberry, black tea, everlasting flower, leather accord, incense, birchwood, and labdanum. But I wonder if that is the very kind of note that might sort of symphonically play a little bit better on skin and might balance a little bit better on skin. But either way, absolutely well worth checking out. Right, we've done 3, and I told myself that when we get to the 4th one, at the how many minutes mark? At the 37-minute mark. 37 minutes, not bad, must be a bit of a record actually. I decided that this is when I would bring out my classic one. But I should also just say you are watching episode 12 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise. Fast rewind. You are watching episode 12 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise. If you're watching on Facebook Live while the episode is being broadcast live, thank you very much for tuning in. Please have hearts and thumbs up, etc. going past, and please leave questions and comments. If you are watching after the live broadcast on Facebook, thank you very much indeed as well. Feel free to leave a comment because I will try to answer them. And if you are watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing to my channel. Leave a comment on YouTube too. I prepared this because I want to give a shout out to the people who very, very loyally have been following me on YouTube. This is just a few of them, but people like Christina Pavely, and I'm sorry for mispronouncing people's names. Is it Sjaak de Vries, who always leaves a comment that makes me chuckle. Amer, who I hope you like the t-shirt, Amer. Who's always very, very complimentary about my choice of clothing. And also, again, my German is rubbish. Is it Duft hoch 2? I hope you know who you are. Thank you very much for watching as well. And Feisty Fluxy and Forever Fragrant Kid, all of you, thanks very much for giving me so much support on YouTube. It is very much appreciated. But now we're going to do something a little bit different, because so many of you said that you like the idea of my covering one classic scent in each episode, and I'm going to go for a really, really obvious one with Valentine's Day in mind, hence the roses. Although maybe when I say obvious, it's obvious in the sense that it's a really, really obvious classic, but maybe not so obvious in the sense of it being a Valentine's Day one, because it's not sort of innocent, girly romantic, and it is, and you have to promise that you have to give me your impressions of this perfume as well. This is hopefully when we will have some interaction, because I'm willing to bet that pretty much all of you out there have smelt this perfume. A lot of you will have it in your collection. A lot of you will have a view on it. You will, I think, either love it or hate it. It is the one and only Poison from Christian Dior. And can you just see? Hang on. Do you know, the other day I went round to the house of one of my stepsons, who's bought himself a massive TV, a very sort of high definition TV, and just to be funny, he decided to tune into YouTube on his TV, and of course he put on one of these videos, and I was really, really shocked, because I mean, I know the camera that I'm using is a 4K camera, but I didn't quite realise how sharp the picture quality was. I thought, God, you can see every single little grey bristle here. I'm pleased that you can see the writing, but I think maybe I need to, cover myself in some kind of soft focus solution. So I suddenly remembered that, because I want to make sure that you can see. Can you see? Oh, I can't make this work, can I? What I want you to see is that this is the Esprit de Parfum version, which was Dior's idea of doing something that was more concentrated than the eau de parfum. It probably would have passed as a parfum concentration, but they decided to call it Esprit de Parfum. A lot of their perfumes were released in that formulation. A comment here from... Oh, this is so annoying. Facebook, get your act together, because I can see a comment on that screen, but not on this screen. And I don't understand why. Anyway, the comment on that screen is from Anne, saying, so happy you're covering a classic. Yes, me too. Poison. You need to tell me what you think about Poison. It came to my mind today because I do actually consider it to be a very, very romantic scent. As carnal as it is romantic. And I also think it's a perfect cold weather scent. And I've only just this second realised that I'm a real idiot spraying it here, because it's just going to overpower everything now. But I shall try to spray it gingerly and not get too much on this blotter. So here we go. I haven't actually smelt this formulation. I picked this up somewhere years ago. I haven't smelt this particular bottle for a while. And it has a kind of spray mechanism that doesn't stop, so you need to be careful. Carol says, Poison. Yes, everybody always goes, Poison. I asked a friend what she was wearing. She pronounced it poisson, like the French word for fish. It's wonderful, and no self-focus, you look just fine. Thank you very much. Now, my French is pretty poor, but is the French word for poison poison? Who was it? Was it David that's watching from France? Tell us, what is the French word for poison? And Eglia says, hello again. Today you have more fun broadcasting the love at first scent. Wow, Poison is my favourite classic perfume. My mum's perfume in my childhood. Eglia. Is that to help me pronounce it? Thank you very much. I hope that was correct. Your mum's perfume, it was my grandmother's signature scent. I always think of her, my maternal grandmother, when I smell this. I need to spray some, which also then means that it makes me think of Warsaw, makes me think of Poland. Right, here we go. I think that is enough. You're probably going to be able to start smelling it now, because this is the real deal. The current formulation of Poison, especially the extrait, is fine, but it's not this. It's because of some of the materials used to create... Okay, I'm just going to start melting now, because the smell has already started reaching my nose. Okay, bye. It was nice knowing you people. Oh, this stuff is just so good. Did you realise that the blotter is still like kind of down there somewhere? Oh, right, shut up, Persolaise. And David says, I'm an American just living in Paris, but you're correct with the pronunciation. Cool. Okay, so poisson is fish and poison is poison? We're guessing, because it's one S. Does it become like a Z? An American living in Paris. They should make a film for you. Right. Oh, this stuff is just so good. I can't do classics in front of you because then I just, want to zone out into my own world. Last year, Angeline says, yes, it's a Z sound. Thank you very much. Poison, the stuff that kills you. Poisson, the stuff that also kills you if it's gone off. Sorry, who are you? What was I saying? Last year, tuberose had a bit of a revival. We had a few scents that were trying to do the tuberose thing in a modern way. So, of course, we had Twilly from Hermès, we had Bloom from Gucci, we supposedly had tuberose in Gabrielle from Chanel. I've written all about that on my blog. Poison is ostensibly a tuberose scent, but it is so much more than that, because for a start, it is the quintessential 80s perfume. It heralded and kind of really cemented what we now consider 80s perfumery to be, in the sense that, it's got that whole Joan Collins, huge hair, massive shoulder pads, gigantic eye makeup thing. So it is large, it is bold, it is full to the brim with massive notes, so not just tuberose but rose as well, and a huge sandalwood note, and berries, lots of berries oozing, dripping. Have any of you read the poem Goblin Market by Christina Rossetti? If you haven't, it's a good poem, you ought to read it. Quite long, but well worth reading. It is an extremely sensuous, quite strange poem, and there are lots of descriptions there of fruit in an unashamedly, unreservedly sort of sexual way, and this is what the fruit here are doing. They are just, rubbed over people's bodies, and people are kind of licking apple juice and blackberry nectar off each other, and yet it's got all of that. It's got all of that grandiose quality that people now associate with Poison, rightly so. But, and this is why I love it, it also has a real tenderness, a real delicacy, especially in this vintage formulation. Paradoxically, a real gentleness. There is nothing crude about it. The perfumer Edouard Flechier, who also made the Lily for Frédéric Malle, Lys Méditerranée. Carol says, your maternal grandmother must have been very, very glam. Yes, she had a glam side. Yeah, she liked glamming it up every now and then. I guess you don't always just see your grandmother as being just one thing, because I spent a lot of time with her, so I also just saw her as the lady who, cleaned her kitchen and scrubbed bathroom floor or whatever, and she was particularly glam then. But yeah, absolutely, she liked her big necklaces and her big clip-on earrings and a spray of poison and a sort of dashing scarf around the neck, and off she would go to listen to a Chopin concert somewhere in Warsaw. But it's the gentleness here, it's that precision, it's that attention to detail that stops this from being just a crude tuberose bomb. It could only have been the work of a master, and I think it would not have survived and would not have captured people's imagination in the way it did if it hadn't had this other facet to it, completely distinctive, completely unmistakable, performs like it's just faultless. It projects and radiates from miles all around, seems to last forever. All you need is a tiny little dab. And unless I'm mistaken, it's the example of Poison that Frédéric Malle often cites when he says how upset he got by the fact that perfumers just weren't being named at perfume launch events, because here was Poison, made by a real master, Edouard Flechier, and apparently at the launch event, he pretty much didn't get a look in. But you're being surprisingly reticent with because I thought if there's one perfume that is going to get you to comment, it will be Poison. So keep your Poison comments coming. Maybe some of you want to have a think about what you think of Poison and leave a comment afterwards, which is fine. How many of you remember the original Poison advert, which had this woman sort of trying to seduce? Was it a kind of Black Panther or something like that? The panther was holding the Poison bottle, and she was sort of trying to do this dance around the panther to steal the bottle. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. Of course, Poison then spawned lots of flankers. Anne says, I've never smelt it. See, I want to say you need to smell it as soon as possible, but then of course the current formulation is not quite the same. It's very good, especially if you can get your hands on the extrait, but it's just not the same. Maybe you'll get lucky and at some flea market somewhere, or there'll be a vintage bottle. If it says Esprit de Parfum, then you can be pretty sure it's an older version, because Dior don't even do Esprit de Parfum anymore. Of the flankers, I think probably my favourite was Tender Poison, or Tendre Poison, but that's been discontinued. I picked up a bottle a few years ago at this tiny little shop in northwestern Italy, and it's in really good condition. Hypnotic Poison is still around, the almondy one by Annick Menardo, very, very good. We have Midnight Poison, Pure Poison. I'd have to see if they're still around. I think Pure Poison is still around as well. But anyway, my classic pick for today, and my pick in honor of Valentine's Day, is Poison, because it is just this beating heart of a scent, so powerful, so unmistakable, so ravishingly beautiful, and a real classic that will never be topped. I think it is, as far as huge symphonic florals go, Poison is a kind of dead end limit. We've got to that point. You need to sort of explore other areas if you want to beat that. Last year, Pure Distance did a perfume called Warszawa, inspired by Warsaw, which reminded, that was by Antoine Lian, unless I'm mistaken. That reminded me of Poison a lot, which I think I said on Love at First Scent here. Angeline says, as teenagers we felt it was very strong but lovely, so we used to spray a little and take a shower, which leaves the perfect strength. Okay, so that tells you everything you need to know about Poison strength. So you would spray some on, and then actually trying to wash it off. Okay. Anne says it's on my list. Yeah, it should be. It really should be. David Coe, beauty in shoulder pads and dramatic eyebrows. Yeah, completely. Dramatic eyeshadow, huge dramatic lipstick, all the rest of it. Michael only smelt the more recent formulation, unfortunately. What did you think of it? I'd be very curious to know, because maybe actually somebody who hasn't smelt the original would smell the current one and also think, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, let me know. Or did it just not do it for you? I wonder if current formulation Diorissimo would also do it for people in the same way that the vintage does, because vintage Diorissimo Esprit de Parfum is probably my favourite perfume. I don't know, but maybe I'm just saying that because I'm in a Dior mood today. It would certainly be up there in my top 5. Okay, 53 minutes, goodness me. I have no idea where the time goes. There is, as we approach the end of the hour, there is so much more I want to talk about. You may remember a few episodes ago I mentioned this brand new brand called St Giles, a UK brand founded by a chap called Michael Donovan. You can now buy the perfumes from Selfridges online if you're in the UK, and I think they're actually going to be at Selfridges in store literally within the next few days. I wanted to show you what the bottles look like. There are 5 scents in the collection so far, each one named after a sort of character and archetype. So as you can see here, we've got the actress, the writer, there's also the tycoon, the stylist, and the mechanic, which is I think it should also be called the quick fit fantasy, but never mind. Michael says about Poison, it smelled nice enough, but was quite a long time ago, to be honest, so a bit hazy. Okay, fair enough. nice enough is sort of damning with faint praise, isn't it? Which you wouldn't really want to do with Poison. But back to St Giles, the bottles for each of them is exactly the same. This is obviously the bottle for the actress. Each one has been composed by Bertrand Duchaufour. So far, I do like both of these very much. The actress is a huge floral, orange blossom with a vanilla base, very, very Duchaufour, somehow reminiscent of some of his work for Nila Vermeer. The writer I like as well because it's got a very interesting herbaceous, camphoraceous quality at the top, courtesy of rosemary. But I think actually my favourite, and I haven't quite yet made up my mind, but I think my favourite is turning out to be the Tycoon, and I don't know what the hell that says about me. I think it's because it takes me on the most interesting journey, and it's got a bit of a vintage feel to it. I've only got, I don't want to show you the lab sample because it's just a boring lab sample bottle, and I don't want to sort of let down the brand in that way, so just think of the actual bottle that I showed you. And I've only got very few drops left of, I was only ever given very few drops of the Tycoon, but let me just do a smell now. So this is, and I'm only going to do this quickly because I would like to mention Gallivant as well. This is, no, I said I wouldn't show it to you, and now I'm showing it to you. There you go, going back on my word. This is the Tycoon. Al Cochrane says, how much does the one in your hand go for? St Giles. Okay. Good question. Retail. I'm going to say £130 for 100 mils? For 100 mils of EDP, but please just check that out on Selfridges.com. But I think it's £130. This is the Tycoon. So this is the Donald Trump in me. Although actually, do you know what? There is no way Trump would... This is far too good for somebody. This is a nice tycoon. This is a tycoon who shares his wealth and goes out every lunchtime and feeds the squirrels and has lots of charities and, pets lambs and sheep on his way to work and ensures that all of his employees are provided with the finest coffees and, arranges private taxis for them to go home every day and only makes them, work a 4-day week but still pays them for a 5-day one. So this is, this is a nice tycoon. Yeah, absolutely. He's just... He's the nicest tycoon you've ever known. He's the non-man-spreading tycoon. And actually, do you know what? I've just shown myself up there because this is a gendered name, the actress. The writer, of course, isn't gendered, but stylist, mechanic, and tycoon don't have to be gendered. So maybe this is a nice tycoon because actually it's a female tycoon. She knows how horrible other tycoons can be, so she's decided she's going to be the nice one. David says, sounds like a French tycoon. Is that right? I'm moving to France. 35-hour week. So this is Madame Tycoon. Okay, what do I like about it? I like the fact that, again, you can't necessarily... Carol says, Sweet Jesus tells me there's no DT in you. My hair is my own. So what was the Meryl Streep Donald Trump impression where she's doing the whole... I guess I personally like it when I'm intrigued by a perfume, and this one has got that very, very careful balance, very careful blend. Maybe something orange blossomy in it, maybe certainly something woody, that kind of woodiness that heads into sort of furniture polish, but very expensive furniture polish. I will read the press release very, very quickly. This isn't necessarily the press release, actually. It's the blurb on the website. This is a fragrance to bestow opulence and power. No, benevolence, gentleness, and kindness to all humanity. It dresses the wearer in self-assurance and privilege, taking them confidently from boardroom to bedroom. Okay. Right, so it's that kind of tycoon, okay. The scent is a chypre, the fragrance genre that speaks of extravagance. Yeah, I would say sophistication, but yeah, okay, we'll go with that. It opens with a bright, bitter green galbanum and the fizz of pomelo, green lemons and fresh ginger. Yeah, definitely a fizz there. At the heart is cypriol, otherwise known as papyrus, a spiced woody note that gives the scent its well-heeled warmth, and stimulating flashes of black pepper, nutmeg, spicy celery, magnolia flower, and tea. The classic base is formed of patchouli, labdanum, and oak moss, augmented with an animalic castoreum that means big business the minute you walked into the joint. Do you know what? If Michael Donovan of St Giles wants to sell it in that way, that's fine. But this is a Tycoon with a heart of gold. And I think probably it is my favourite in the range, and I think it's probably the one that I'm going to have to buy for myself. It's very textured, very elegant, yes, confident, but it's not brash, it's not arrogant. And so maybe that's we can take the name with a pinch of salt, I think. Right, let's very quickly just smell how the other blotters are doing. I'm most intrigued by the Sammarco one. Oh, that's still really good. That monk is working away on that parchment. It's become really dry, and yes, now that I know it's meant to be iris, but it's not an obvious iris because that fruitiness is still changing it, making it more interesting. What was this? Okay, the Jusbox Feather Supreme. Yeah, still kind of doing that, heading into mainstream territory shampoo thing. But it's glamorous, I'll give it that. What else did we have? Russian tea. Is this Russian tea? Yes. Ooh, much mintier now. Nafia, if you're still watching, how's your Russian tea doing? This is very seriously minty. It reminds me of the mint tea candle from Sia Trudon. And what was? Oh no, this is Poison, right? I'm not going to smell that again because I've gone on and on enough about Poison. Very, very quickly then, 2 new scents from Gallivant. The idea behind Gallivant is that I've gone over the hour. Sorry, 1 hour and 2 minutes. Right, make this really quick. We mustn't go over an hour and 5. The idea behind Gallivant is that they're meant to be perfume journeys. Each one is inspired by a major city. Cheated a little bit with Brooklyn because, of course, Brooklyn isn't a city in itself, but it's as good as a city. If you Google Persolaise Nick Stewart or Google Persolaise Gallivant, you'll find an interview that I posted last year with the chap who founded the brand. What's kind of interesting about them is that all the perfumes have been made by one of 2 women, either Georgia Navarro, who is actually, I think, a protege of Bertrand Duchaufour's, or Karine Chevalier, I want to say. I think it is Karine Chevalier. And the 2 latest ones that we've got are Amsterdam and Berlin. Berlin is by Karine Chevalier. Please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Anne says it used to be its own city. Well, Brooklyn. Okay. Somebody needs to tell Nick Stewart. That's a good one. Berlin is by Karine Chevalier and Amsterdam is by Georgia Navarro. And I think with Amsterdam, you would say that you can sort of see the influence of Bertrand Duchaufour. It is ostensibly, again, a tulip scent. And so if you think tulips and Bertrand Duchaufour, you think Traversée du Bosphore, French, seriously, from L'Artisan Parfumeur, which isn't just a tulip scent. It's actually a very, very sweet, almost gourmand iris scent, but it has a very definite tulip note. For a more pronounced tulip idea from Bertrand Duchaufour, you can look at his latest scent for Miller Harris. And I want to say it's called Tender. I know it's inspired by Tender is the night. I think his is the one that's called Tender. And it's that tulip feel, the same style of tulip note is what is at play here in Amsterdam from Gallivant. It's that slightly sappy, slightly green, slightly Narcissus-like, and I'm going to say slightly Uranus, but in a good way, so, don't be put off. This does not smell of pee. But that acrid, that slightly acrid quality that you would get from a tulip. So you've got that on a woody base. And if that sounds simple, that is because I think the idea behind these scents is that, or at least to me, is that they are quite streamlined. You kind of get them quite quickly. From the debut quartet, the one that goes on the most interesting journey, I think, is London, which is probably why it's still my favourite, because that one genuinely progresses. It goes from a sort of rain-soaked wetness to a rose to a leather, and you almost feel yourself walking along certain bits of London. The others are perhaps more linear, which is not a criticism. There is room out there for linear scents as well. And Amsterdam also has just the right amount of oddness to it, just the right amount of weirdness. You never quite know where you stand with it. You don't know whether the tulip is about to just sort of die on you. It has that slight feeling of flowers that have been standing in water for maybe just a little bit too long. But I don't want to put you off with these descriptions, because actually they are what make the perfumes interesting. We'll finish by just reading the brand's blurb on Amsterdam. Floral, spicy, woody, the conceptual imagining of a black tulip. This cosy fragrance captures autumn going into winter. Okay, I think it's a little bit too dark and mysterious to be cosy, but fine. The freedom of cycling past the former spice warehouses of the Warmoestraat to a canal-side apartment on Prinsengracht. My French is terrible, my Dutch is even worse. On the elegant south side of the city. Wind in your hair. Now we're inside, it's getting dark. It's gezellig, that quintessential ingredient of good Amsterdam living. It's cozy. Warm, flowers in the window, cake and feeling indulged. Cake, now I need cake. Beautifully made wooden furniture. Maybe there's some chocolate I could rate some. Anyway, dark hues on the walls, and the perfume notes are a genre-defying floral, spicy, woody, ambery fragrance. Yeah, defy those genres, Nick. Go for it. The conceptual imagining of a black tulip, a spicy aromatic head of elemi, Chinosmol CO2 extract, which is pink pepper, Szechuan pepper and saffron, and the floral heart contains tulip and rose and a base of cedarwood, musks, sandalwood and amber. An intriguing piece of work. Not quite what you would think it might be from those notes. There is more to it, I think, than those notes let on. A sort of sense of mystery, a sense of darkness. Enough from me. You need to go on and get on with your lives. Thank you very much indeed, as always, for tuning in. Please feel free to leave any questions after this broadcast. If any questions suddenly come to you, or if indeed you are watching after the broadcast, please give me thumbs and hearts and all of that kind of thing, because yeah, there's a thumb going across the screen there, because they are much appreciated. Any recommendations for classics you would like me to cover in future, please say so. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much. Please subscribe, please give me a thumbs up, please leave a comment, ask a question, and don't forget that Al Cochran says Gallivant London 30 mils in the US goes for around $95. Do you know, I have no idea what it goes for here. I think it's something in the region of maybe 60, 65 pounds, but don't quote me on that. But they are only 30 ml bottles, and that was done deliberately, because the idea is that you're meant to be able to take them with you when you travel light. What was I saying? Yes, please don't forget that in about 4 or 5 hours from now, I will post an update on Facebook to tell you how the blotters have been doing. But until the next episode of Love at First Scent, thank you very much for tuning in. Look after yourselves. Bye.